Today, we're looking at Robert Oster's Summer Storm. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, Robert Oster's Summer Storm is a purple ink. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples, I put the ink into a different pen for a day, I then put it into a Noodler's Ahab with a modified flex nib to take my notes for this video. Now, before we go to the writing samples, let's look at the sciencey bits. Up first is the chromatography, and I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And what we see is this purple that really pushes its way up, and then we get a bright blue across the top. The one on the right, I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And to be honest, the only difference I see is that the inks did not travel as far up the filter paper, leading me to believe there's going to be very little, if any, resistance for this ink. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it might be to clean from your pens. Now, I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, I am very surprised by how well it did. That extra fine is about a fine. There's no blowout, no blurriness. That makes this very safe to use in a note-taking situation. Looking at the water is another reason that I'm very surprised about how the highlighter did. Water is completely reactivating and lifting this ink off the paper. Even where a little bit of that violet's left, you easily see the dots of the rhodia paper coming through. But we are getting the white of the paper coming through. Pen Flush did it even more effectively than the water. Pretty much most all that's left is very little blue left where the Pen Flush was. There's very little violet left where the Pen Flush was. But I think it's water that's all you're going to need. Now, the 1/3 bleach solution has completely removed it from the paper, but there's no need to use that to clean this from your pen. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Robert Oster's Summer Storm has a viscosity of 2, making it a wetter ink. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done with the extra fine and medium nib on Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, and rhodia paper. For the inks I've tested, I've found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Robert Oster's Summer Storm has an average dry time of 16 seconds, making it normal. Now, let's look at the writing sample.
I picked this ink up in sample form, and to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairefontaine. This is not an incredible amount of bleeding, but incredible stupidity on this guy's fault. I was being impatient and put it down on paper that it was not yet dry. So this is not really bleed, this is me being an idiot. Other than that, we have no bleeding and no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and some beautiful shading going on here. In Robert, it starts dark, gets lighter, gets darker again, gets lighter again, gets very dark at the T. Oster starts very light, gets dark at the T, lighter out of the T. Beautiful, very nice shading. It has halo on the darker words. Very nice. No sheen. Okay. I think I've screwed this all up. Tons of shading, no feathering. I'm going to move on. The extra fine is about the same tone that we see with the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, no halo, no sheen. Beautiful shading. Quick starts as a medium tone, gets lighter, gets super dark at the K. Brown starts dark and gets light. Fox starts light and gets dark. Beautiful. And the very dark word, especially next to over. And 10 seconds to dry. Now the medium is a slightly darker tone than the extra fine. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and the shading is not really coming through here. 16 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us not a lot of color variation, but the extra fine gave us plenty in the writing. And the smear test, I believe you could recover this if you smeared while you were writing. Rhodia, no bleeding, but look at how deep the medium's getting into the page. That is significantly deep into the page, and that's weird. Because it doesn't have any kind of real permanent properties about it. Strange. Yes, some definite crazy ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread. It halos all over it. It looks great. No sheen, no shade. Wow. The extra fine is a slightly darker tone than the 1.1. It has no feather spread. Halo. Halo? No halo? Wrong. It has halo. The entire of the writing sample has halo and looks fantastic for it. No sheen, no shade, 17 seconds to dry. The medium, much darker than the extra fine. Now, the much darker on camera is because of what's going on. It has no feather, no spread. It's got a thick halo. It doesn't have just a tiny halo. It's got a thick halo, and that's why it looks so dark on the page. This is gorgeous. This is absolutely amazing. It is not that dark the whole way through. That is, good Lord, get close to the camera. Show them that beautiful halo going on. Focus. Look at it. Look at how on the, it's lighter, but if you look at the very edges, that's where it's very dark. Look at that. Yes, it's a darker tone on the paper. Absolutely. But it's got a thick halo all the way around it. No sheen, no shading, 25 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both aren't showing color variation, but they're showing the halo. And I'm going to come in close again because that thick halo really shows up on the scrubby. And that's what I'm seeing in the writing sample. That thick halo we see on the medium, that's all over that writing. Beautiful. The smear test, I don't think you could recover it. Rhodia paper. Zoom out here a little bit. Whoa, wrong way, wrong way. Beep, beep. The Rhodia has no bleeding and no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread. Halo sheen. It has some spots of shading, like the B in Robert looks a little bit darker than the rest. The E in Oster a little bit darker. Not a whole lot else. I think I zoomed a little too far out. We'll come back in. I'll deal with how close you are. Try and keep my hand expressions right here to make it bothersome. That's a lot of caffeine. All right. The extra fine is slightly darker than the 1.1. The extra fine has no feather, spread, halo sheen. It's got some very nice shading, like on Quick. It starts dark, gets light, and gets dark on the K again. Brown starts very dark and doesn't get light until the far side. Focus. Focus. There we go. Not talking to you, talking to the camera. You can be as distracted as you want watching this. In the middle of the N, it starts getting, or in the W to the N, it starts getting much lighter, and it is nice, very nice right there. Fox has a very dark line on this side, but the rest is nice and light, and then it gets very dark at the X. Super nice. 11 seconds to dry. Now, medium is much lighter than the extra fine, and that's not common for us to get. The medium has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and no real shading. So weird that it got lighter but didn't have the shading. It took 16 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby of the extra fine and the medium show us no color variation, although the extra fine did give us plenty of color variation in the writing. The smear test, I believe you could recover this if you smeared while you were writing. And up next is Monell Kaki. Monokaki. It has no bleeding. It has a lot of ghosting. It's a thinner paper. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and no shading at all in this writing. The extra fine is the same tone as the 1.1 with no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shading, 10 seconds to dry. The medium is the same tone as the extra fine and the 1.1. No feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade, 14 seconds to dry. Although, when I had to go back over that 14, it got much darker. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. On camera, it looks like there's a little bit in the medium, but not in person. We didn't get any color variation, and a smear test I do not believe you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. TWSBI notebooks, no bleeding and no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen. It has spots of shading like the H in the, K in quick. The word the here is significantly darker than everything around it. Brown starts dark and works its way light. Very nice. 12 seconds to dry. Now medium becomes a much darker tone than the extra fine. The medium has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. It took 16 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show us no color variation really. Looking far left to far right, we see a tiny bit on the extra fine, but the color variation in the writing was much more. The smear test I do not think you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. So up next is Moleskin. Now it didn't enjoy the medium. It did perfectly acceptable with the extra fine. Yes, there's spots that come through. It would not stop you from using the page underneath. The medium did not touch the page underneath. I just do not think you could use the back of the page. So on an extra fine, you could do it. It would be fine. It wouldn't stop you. Medium. No spread. Lots of feathering. Tons of feathering. It's Big Bird. Oh. No halo, no sheen, no shade. The feathering aside, this is a pocket-sized notebook. Jot some notes. It's going to be perfectly fine. The extra fine is the same tone as the medium. The extra fine has no spread. It has a lot of feathering in its thicker areas where you go over it a couple times, like in the K. A lot of feathering. A lot of feathering on the downstroke of that F where I'm completely coming back over a line. But not a lot of feathering in all of the natural writing. So there's only spots where feathering happens a bunch. It happens here on the HE where it looks a tiny bit darker. No halo sheen. And the shade, again, the spots where it look a tad bit darker like the K or the HE, it feathers. 2 seconds to dry. Now, the scrubby doesn't really show much color variation. It shows a tiny bit far left to far right, but when it happens, it feathers like mad. Smear test. If you smear while you were writing, you lost it. Not on this notebook. That's all that I have for the writing sample.
Instead of finding inks that look like Robert Oster's Summer Storm, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page, and I wanted a very nice brown. I chose Diamine Ochre. Before I give my opinion on this ink, I would ask, if you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if it's your first time here, I would invite you to subscribe. So what do I think of Robert Oster's Summer Storm? This is a very nice dusty purple. You have to enjoy dusty purples to truly appreciate this particular ink. And it shades very nicely. It's pleasant on the eyes the entire time to read with every nib that I've used it in. Thanks for watching.